Hey everybody, and welcome back to 10 Backward. We are your, maybe I should have prepared something I was going to say. Anyway, I'm Ron McAdams.
And I'm James Rohling.
Hey James, how are you doing?
I'm not doing great.
Not so good after Firstborn, huh?
No. This was a dumpster fire and a half.
It is. Hey, before we get started though, I had a bit of information that I needed to share. I got an email from Brian Bonsale, who said, I am not dead, and I am officially unsubscribing from your podcast.
Oh, he got mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was almost like, he's going to send it out on the Twitterverse, like these two morons claimed I was dead, did a whole Bob Hope thing
only one moron, for sure.
Well,
you weren't as committed to this person that is just living their own life, minding their own damn business, trying to put Star Trek behind them.
Yeah.
So
especially this episode, I'd put this episode long behind me.
Yeah, I would. This would not be like when I'm filling out the SAG paperwork. I would not list this one.
Which is odd that this would be a storyline towards the end of the entire show. Like, this is something they were writing in the writer's room, like, oh yeah, we got to close out the Alexander storyline before we end the show. It only makes sense because everybody's clamoring for more Alexander.
Well, I'm pretty sure that they were maybe... I don't know, because again, the seventh season is kind of the dumping ground for a bunch of scripts that had just been banging around for a while, and there's always been that thing, and we'll talk about this when we get into the episode summary. But there's always that thing where like that Worf was kind of a deadbeat dad, like he sent Alexander away to go live with his parents, and then when he came back, it was kind of like there's an episode or two where Alexander's getting in trouble, and it's about like just trying to, learn to be a father and all that type of stuff. And so I think maybe that this episode gives some closure kind of on that, like, oh man, I'm a failure as a parent kind of storyline. And, and maybe gives them like something to springboard off to, because I think at this point in time, they knew that they were already talking to Michael Dorn about coming over to Deep Space Nine, which man, there's some great, like totally shoehorned in bullshit, in this episode that we will talk about for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think they kind of had to do it because the seventh season is kind of about family too. Because there's other episodes where, with Picard and his son, which we just saw like last week, and then now it's Worf and his son. So everybody gets a turn, I
guess. But no thanks.
It's shite. Don't get me wrong. It's total garbage. But everybody had to get their turn. I mean, I think not to spoil anything, but I think this is also the season where we get to like Geordi and his mom. It's like, come on.
Oh man, does any of Counselor Troy's mom show up at all?
No, I'm pretty sure that we've seen. Yeah, I can't remember actually, but I'm pretty sure we've seen everything we're going to see from. Gosh, oh man, I feel terrible. Like, oh my gosh, her ghost is gonna come to my house and kick my ass. But I think we've seen everything of Loxana Troy.
Yeah,
okay. For season 7, I don't know. Maybe she figures in somewhere. I don't know. But she's got some badass episodes where it's about like aging and kind of things like that, kind of shifting into.
There's an Alexander Loxana Troy episode somewhere. Yeah, there is. So
and it's a good one too.
Once we get there,
I mean, quote unquote, good one. But, oh my gosh! So I this episode hits me in all the family places because it is kind of like a schmaltzy, like so there's some schmaltzy stuff in it, but
yeah, there is.
Yeah. Anyway, do we want to just launch into the summary here?
Yeah, go right ahead. You want to start?
Or I don't want to like rush the Halloween season, as they say.
Oh no. This is the faster we get through this, the better.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, let me start with the pre-credit teaser. So Worf is in his office or bedroom or quarters or whatever, and he's like going through a sort of like a speech that obviously he's going to give. And he's like, Mawage. And he's got these candles and stuff, and he's wearing his little Klingon vestments, and he's going through, and he's kind of like fumbling with his speech and things. He's trying to remember all the words, and so as he's sitting there doing this and lighting these little candles and stuff, there's like a little kind of altar on the table. Alexander runs in, and another kid chases him in, and they're having like a water balloon fight. So Worf has got
not just water balloon, a space water balloon.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah,
they look like little soccer balls.
Yes, little soccer balls. So this huge thing of water, kids are just running around the Enterprise, throwing it randomly onto shit. And this kid, like, smacks Worf right in the chest. And he's got, like, his little fancy Klingon vestments on and stuff. He is not amused by this.
Oh, no. The
kid
he is not.
Yeah, the kid apologizes and runs off. So Worf is like, I told you to come directly home after school. And Alexander's like, you understand they were giving out like free popcorn. And he was like, I don't give a shit. When you live in my Enterprise, you're going to live by my Enterprise rules.
Yeah, he immediately goes into like the whole Father of the Year kind of thing, like in a sarcastic way, because he's nowhere near the Father of the Year.
Right. And that's kind of this episode, because I'll cover it here in a second, but it's like, so basically he's like, hey, a man is very much like a sword. And he's like, what? And because he's fumbling, and this is as close as Star Trek gets to humor. And so he's like, well, this is the point, before you turn 13, you have to go through the rite of ascension. And if you don't do this, by the time you turn 13, you're never going to be like a proper warrior. And Alexander's like, okay, well, isn't that where they hit you with the pain sticks? And he was like, oh, no, don't worry. That's the second part. And he's like, oh, okay. And so he's like, they're going to test your knowledge of Kalis, and we're, your skills and your ability to fight and things like that. And so he's like, if you don't do this, you'll never be like a proper warrior. And so he lights a little candle and he hands it to him. And he's like, hey, by you lighting this candle back or something, it shows that you're declaring your intention to become a warrior.
Right.
And Alexander is like, hey, because we haven't seen it on the series. This is actually the first time we've seen Alexander, I guess, in this viewing. But Alexander's mom is like Kalar, who's like half human and kind of grew up among humans, but was like a Klingon ambassador and stuff. Anyway, hey, if in another year, we'll be to that episode. But basically said, hey, if you don't want to do all this Klingon stuff, you don't have to. And Worf is like, well, it is your choice. You're going to have to decide whether you want to please your living father or your dead mother. And Alexander's like, this is bullshit. I'm gonna be a star, and like runs out of the room before declaring his intention to be a warrior.
He goes full like James Vanderbeek, like, I don't want your life.
Yeah, he's like, I ain't gonna spend my life stinking of pepper like you, old man, and like runs off to join the Streak Dome.
He totally does. And then we get the opening credits as usual. Mm-hmm. And it cuts right into a little meeting going on the Enterprise. And the senior staff are just kind of like planning what's happening. And Picard notices a meme. That is the distracted Klingon dad meme. Because Worf is just totally not interested in anything that happens. They're
just like management babbling at each other.
A lot of housekeeping kind of stuff. And Captain Picard mentions an archaeological dig, and Data is talking about stellar dynamics. So the stellar dynamics can have extra time on the sensor array to examine this nearby nebula. And so Picard notices that Worf is kind of distracted, so he kind of closes out the meeting, but then says, hey, Lieutenant, stick around. Need to talk to you real quick. Why are you so distracted? Why don't you want to engage with us? And
tell me what's wrong, sport.
Yeah, pretty much. And Worf is pretty much explains Alexander doesn't understand what it means to be a Klingon, and Picard goes into, well, he hasn't been around Klingons. Hey, there's an outpost on Marenga 4 Moringa 4, and they're
I like
celebrating.
that. I like your pronunciation better than the actual one.
Moringa
That's
4,
fine.
not Moringa.
No, I don't remember what it was. It was like plot contrivance 4.
Pretty much, and they're celebrating like some kind of festival, Kot Baval, I believe it's called.
Oh.
And it's an experience where Alexander can immerse himself in the Klingon culture and whatnot. But Alexander, well, not just Alexander, but I think this whole thing is interesting because Picard is like, yes, a child doesn't understand his culture, so let's inconvenience an entire ship to go to this outpost so this kid can learn more about his culture.
Yeah.
Hey, it's cool if Stellar Dynamics gets to see this entire nebula, but the medical staff really needs some freaking supplies, Picard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it bothers me so much when they're like, you know what, we're not that busy. Let's just go over here now.
Well, I mean, because I think he even says something about like, it would take me several days to reach the
they
planet.
mentioned through like on a shuttle, and he's like, well, the Enterprise can get there in a matter of hours. And like, well, I would never ask you that. But it's like, the captain says it's cool, but everybody else is probably like, God damn it, really? There's like 5 people on this ship that we do everything around, and I'm this little engineer that needs to get home.
Right.
No, it's cool. We can wait for your damn son to figure out his culture. That's great. Thank you, Captain Picard. So they go to Moringa 4, and the festival is just in full swing. And there's like, it's kind of like a weird atmosphere. It's like a festival, and there's vendors, and they're having like street food, and there's like these worms that they're eating, and they're watching a drama, and it's pretty much Klingon capoeira. Like they're fake fighting with their baleths, and it's all about these old legends between these two Klingons. Audience members can participate, and when one of the guys fall, Worf goes in to replace him. He falls. Alexander goes in there.
Because it's kind of the thing, because he can see Alexander like, he's kind of getting excited at watching this play acting going on.
Yeah, and he kind of gets a little overexcited, and the actor takes he kind of, I don't even know if it looks, because Alexander's starting to hit the guy with full force, and at one point
he
injures the guy. Well, he says, "You wound me." You don't see any kind of wound. But he says it, but then they kind of continue after Alexander backs off.
Yeah. Well, they don't make it clear. It could have just been his ego.
Could have. No, seriously.
But you wound me.
You wound me. So they spend a lot of time at that festival, and Alexander makes some friends, and they talk about seeing a head in a box that's been mummified. And so they return to the Enterprise. And as they're trying to leave, there's these 3 Klingon warriors kind of appear out of nowhere and starts to attack them. But there is something I do want to make known. Yeah. Before all this, there's a Klingon that's kind of like watching Worf and Alexander. And as I was watching this, he looked familiar to me. And he looked like the guy who played the lead Klingon in the Star Trek VHS game.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it could be wrong, actually, but it looks like that guy.
Well, yeah, I think this guy's been around a little bit. I'm trying to think, because I think the VHS game, that's actually what's his face, like Gowron. Because he's got the big eyes, like he's got the bugged out eyes, but because the actor that played the character that we're going to reveal here in just a second, that's James Sloyan, who is like all over the damn place in in Star Trek. He's in a bunch of episodes, so you have probably seen him before, and that's because you've seen him before.
Okay. So there was another thing when they were watching this Klingon reenactment. Some of the other members of the Enterprise were there, including Data, and Worf offers him some like food, and Data is like, not Data, Geordi. Mm-hmm. He offers Geordi food, and Geordi is like, no, Kidding?
He like looks at it. Yeah, he looks at it just like, do you know who you're offering this to?
No, thank you. Pretty much is that look. And then Dr. Crusher's there, and they're in this reenactment. They're starting to speak, Klingon, and Dr. Crusher's like, "What are they saying, Worf?" Like, kind of almost annoyed.
Yeah.
In her tone. But then I'm sitting here like, wait. Where is your language tech? Why are you here without your language tech?
Hey, I got an idea for an exciting day. Let's go down to this planet with all these excitable Klingon guys and not be able to communicate with them. Doesn't that just sound like fun? We'll do some shopping, maybe get killed.
And bring one Klingon with us who can translate.
Yeah, it's just my translated Klingon. I brought him. Hold on. He's over there eating some gapla.
But seriously, you'd think they'd have like an earpiece or something so they can understand what everyone's saying.
Yeah. And actually that brings up a great point, because the whole thing is supposed to be that the communicator has some sort of translation technology in it, but it's like, it's listening, and then it's like somehow displaying, or only audible to you what the other person is saying. That's something that another Roddenberry show actually got correct, which is Andromeda, because on Andromeda there's like a little thing in the ship where I guess if it detects that you don't have these, it injects you with translator microbes.
Oh, okay.
So there's like a biological sort of thing, very much Hitchhiker's Guide with the Babel fish, but it's like, you actually get infected with these little germs, and they can actually do all the translation for you. So
okay,
yeah. So really sidetracked there.
It was so interesting to me that they just like show up and be like, "Well, hold on, Worf, you're gonna tell us everything these people are saying." Yeah. It's like, well, you could bring your little like, your little comms unit to. No, we're not doing that.
No, that seems too convenient potentially.
Yeah.
So, but leading up to Act 2. So we're last time on Next Gen, Alexander and Worf, they were going to beam back up to the Enterprise or something, or they were going to go their shuttle. They don't make it clear how they got there, but there's like some Klingon guys that come out of the darkness and decide they're going to attack him. So before the fight starts, this older Klingon guy actually they're kind of scuffling around, but this older Klingon guy comes out of the shadows. He shoots a disruptor, kind of like a warning shot at one of the guys, and Worf takes out the other two guys, and they're laying on the floor, and he's like, "Alexander, go to safety." And so Alexander runs away, and he's kind of watching his dad beat these guys up.
Go, Dad.
And then and so Worf goes over, and it's like the old guy that we'd seen or maybe not old, 60s or however old he is, hiding around in the shadows, goes up and he's like, "Who are you and what are you doing?" And he recognizes the man, and he identifies himself as Kimtar, who is the Gintok for the House of Moog. Okay, to explain all that, Gintok in Klingon society is sort of like a I don't know. It's like what's his face in The Godfather. It's like an advisor. It's oh gosh, I feel so bad. I can't remember that guy's name. Yes, is a concierge for the Klingon household. So basically, they all boom up back to the Enterprise, and they're sitting there in the observation lounge, or the ready room or whatnot, just trying to sort through things. And basically, Commander Riker's in there, and he's like, "I want to know what's going on and why this is happening and all this type of stuff." And they're like, "We know that this is somehow connected to the Duras, the House of Duras, because we haven't seen it on the show yet." But basically, Worf's family exposes some shady shit that the Duras family did in the past, and that's why Worf's family's honor got their honor restored. Worf's family got their honor restored, and his brother ended up on the Klingon High Council.
Right.
So and eventually, I think maybe even Emperor. I can't even remember. We'll see. We'll see in the coming weeks. But basically, he's kind of like a dick to Riker, and Riker's like, I just want to know, like, they tried to kill one of my, basically senior officers. So, I got skin in this game, yo. And so they're like, well, we're gonna have to figure out exactly like what's going on here, and we're gonna have to find like find these Duras sisters. Well, because they find the knife and it's got their house emblem on it.
Yeah, and Riker really makes a meal out of that knife in the ready room.
Yes,
he's like holding onto it, like, ooh, this knife. What is this?
Like, I know, he's really like looking it over, like, if a Starfleet officer was to put this on eBay, what would you assume that something like this would go for?
And that's when Jason Viggo would say, well, I can't eat it.
Right. Yes. Can't eat it. Can't have sex with it. Can't live with sex underneath it. So it's of no use to me. So they're like, how are we going to get more information? And of course, Riker coughs up. Well, the last time the Duras sisters were seen was on DS9. Because again, contemporary to the show being on, we'd already be in the second season of Deep Space Nine. So they're like, we need to contact Deep Space Nine to get more information, because that just seems like the way that we're going to find them and then tie into the other series. Yeah. So they call over to Deep Space Nine, and for whatever reason, the only person that picks up the phone is Quark. So right. So somehow, somehow the bridge, they were so busy at Deep Space Nine that the phone just kept like ringing over and ringing over, and it went to like, engineering.
Oh no, you're gonna get that. Oh no, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Zach?
So the only person.
Are you there?
Yeah, nope. So the only person to answer the phone was Quark, and he's like, "Hey, Commander Riker, you remember I owe you some money." And so there's like some kind of like reason that Quark would recognize Riker because of something I think that happened in like the first episode of Deep Space Nine. But
you tried the sweet talk Dax, and it didn't work so well.
Yes. Yeah, you didn't understand. She had like one of them little worms in her belly. But so they kind of chat back and forth, and it's like, okay, well, if you squash my debt to you, I'll give you the information. So he's like, I heard that they are trying to mine out this Paklid, whatever, like, this other place. Go to this other planet. They've got more information there. And so they decide, okay, well, we're going to go check it out. And Kimtar is kind of like, I didn't know you'd find him that fast. Like, that's kind of, like, he seems like dejected. And at this point, you're kind of suspicious, like, what's going on with this guy? Something's up.
Right.
So Worf and Kimtar, they go to his quarters, and Kimtar is like trying to kind of relate like Worf's brother's concern about Alexander, because Worf's brother is Kern, who again is like on the Klingon High Council, possibly president. Yes, possibly like the Ray Kroc of Kronos. But he basically, he doesn't have like a male heir. So he's kind of thinking that Alexander is Worf's only son, might have to lead the House of Moog someday. So he's like, he's not really, Kimtar is kind of like, he's concerned that you haven't been teaching him to be like a good Klingon. You've spent too much time with all these humans. And so he's like, how are his skills? And Worf's like, we're taking the training wheels off. He's kind of, he's not as great. He's not the murderer he could be, but I'm working on it. And so, so he's like, he doesn't take the time to practice. So it's like the classic thing with parents where it's like, you got to practice your piano lessons or whatever.
Kimtar's like, your son's soft. We got to make him hard.
Yeah. That's right. So Kimtar says, I'm going to help you if you'll accept my help. And Worf says, sure, no problem. So what he does is he goes in and he sits on, because Alexander's like, getting ready for bed. So he goes in there and he sits in there and he's like, oh, we got amazing stories, and your uncle's got this lake and you can just see right to the bottom, and you go swimming every day, and you got cousins and they want to meet you, and you need to go to the home world. And I know you're concerned that it's not safe, but your family will protect you, and you really need to sort of come and see see, what your real heritage is. And Alexander's like, hey, I'll think about it. And so he kind of like gets up and goes out, and there's like a little cool nod between like Worf and Kimtar, and then commercial break.
Yeah. That's when we come back to see all the information that comes out about the about Quark and the Dura sisters, and he explains that the Dura sisters are trying to buy some mining equipment to dig up some ore. I guess a magnesite in the Kala system. So while the Enterprise travels there, and we don't know what happened to Picard at this point. Like all of a sudden, Riker's in charge.
Yeah, like I think Patrick Stewart like had the week off.
Probably.
So he got all his scenes shot at the very beginning, and then they released him.
Yeah, he has to go read his script for Star Trek Insurrection.
Yes.
But they as they're traveling to the Kala system, Kimtar comes up with this holodeck simulation, and my problem here is, are holodecks universal? Like, does every race now own holodecks, know how to like program something in?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think the bigger sort of objection to the scene is it's a exact simulation of the planet where that festival was going on.
Maranga, whatever. Yeah,
because I'm not paying for 2 exterior sets this week.
Nope, not doing that.
Not gonna do it.
So yeah, he kind of cues up this simulation of what specifically just happened prior, where Worf was attacked by the 3 Klingons, and it was because Alexander felt sad that he couldn't help his father in any way, and Kimtar thought that this would be a way to get over his fear, to be able to fight and help his father.
You've fought this battle a million times in your mind since it actually happened. Well, now you can actually fight it.
Yeah, pretty much. And it really doesn't go well. Like, Alexander's able to kind of, take care of himself for a little bit, but Kimtar freezes the program and says, look at his legs. His legs are like the key. They'll tell you where he's going to go. So Alexander takes advantage of that and takes him to the ground, but he won't kill him. And Kimtar gets kind of pissed at this, and then Alexander's like, screw you, I'm not a murderer, and runs away. Like, I'm out of here. The Enterprise, during this, arrives at Kala 3. They beam down a team, and to find a lone man named Gorda. He's an alien, and he, in exchange for passage off the planet, he says, I'll tell you everything. I'll tell you everything I know about the ore that's been sold. Later, in 10 Forward, Kimtar meets up with Worf and says, I'm sorry that I got angry, and Alexander should be sent away, because right now he's not doing anything good here. He's just kind of, just hanging out and throwing water balloons.
Yeah.
And he needs to be more,
as Klingon children are wont to do,
or Klingon children with human friends.
Yes,
he's not living up to his full Klingon potential, is pretty much what Kimtar is trying to say. And he can't learn under these conditions. He can't be a true Klingon,
right? And
so at this point,
he's just not living up to his murdering potential.
Right? He's not a savage beast. Is pretty much what's going on. And so, Kimtar invokes something called the Yanora Core, which is a law that can remove a child from a parent if they feel the parent is unfit for custody, such as this kind of situation. So Worf kind of gets a little angry about this, and Kimtar says that for the good of the house, you have to do this. He's like, you have to. And pretty much what happens is they both disagree, and we go to Act 4.
Yeah. So Act 4, Kimtar is like, trying to give him the hard sell, trying to give Alexander the hard sell about Klingon culture, and how he's like, you need to go to this Klingon school, because this Klingon school, they're going to teach you like all the, you've been living among humans too long, and you just, you don't act like one of us.
Yeah.
And being here, you're the only person like you, and if you if you really want to be like a Klingon warrior and learn about your your heritage and things, you got to get away from this place where there's no people like you.
Kim Tar gets into the, hey kid, don't ask questions and let's get racist for a second. He becomes that uncle.
Yeah. And it's like, hanging out with all your multicultural pals, you're forgetting who you are. You're a eggplant.
You're going soft.
That's right. Soft. So he's like, Alexander's like, you're just like my dad. You only care about me being a warrior. You don't care about what I want to do.
Yeah, Dad, screw you.
I want to sing and dance. I'm so happy. And so basically he takes off, and Kim Tar is kind of like, what am I going to do next? So at this point, they have tracked down that Uridian trader ship or whatever that got the ore from from where they think they got the Duras sisters or whatever.
Right.
And so they're like, well, hey, we want to buy some ore too. And he was like, well, I've already got a buyer. And he's like, well, but you don't know like what we're going to offer. And so they're like, there's this goofy, kind of.
It's like a bullshit gel. It's like a gel.
It's this gel that's got like super healing powers. And he's like, I'll give you like a half a gram of this gel for like all this ore. And he's like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that. So he's like, here's the coordinates. And he's like, beam it over here. And or they're like, where we're going to beam it, we're going to test the how good it is, and then if it's good, then we're going to give you the stuff. So they go ahead and they beam it, or Riker gives the coordinates, and Data, without even looking at his console, says, well, those coordinates are right off the starboard bow or something. And he's like, yeah, I know. So they beam it out into space.
Even Troy is like, you're up to something.
Yeah, it's like sneaky. And so they beam it out into space, and then he's like, blow it up! So they shoot it, and I don't know that he says blow it up. I can't remember. But he probably said something like that. So they target phasers, and they blow it up, and this ore just so happens to sort of spread around, and anywhere it like hits the cloaked shell of a Klingon bird of prey. So it's like, haha. So they put a tractor beam on the ship, and of course it's the Duras sisters inside. And so he's like, you need to come over here, and we're going to figure out why you tried to assassinate one of my senior officers. And for these people to be like criminals that just run around the whole damn galaxy, and feature as the main villains or the assistants to the main villain in Star Trek Generations, they sure do drop the shields and head on over there pretty quick.
It was so you're gonna come over here. All right, you guys seem cool.
They're like, yeah, it's cool. I need I need some more those Klingon bras that just kind of expose everything in the middle. So they're like, yeah, come on over and we'll talk it out. So they get over there, and Riker and Kim Tar and Worf are like, we've got the evidence that puts people from your family at the scene of the crime, and they've got the knife that Riker was like drooling over, like wrapped up in this little cloth. They open it up, and the Duras sisters look at it, and they're like, wait a minute, there's something goofy with this. She's like, if you look at the symbols on it, this one here is my dad, and this one here is my sister, and this one's me, but this symbol up here, this is a symbol for my son. And they're like, we didn't know you had a kid. And the other sister is like, well, she only found out like a day ago. And I only told her. So immediately they're like, who has been dipping into my baby shower gifts? Which one of you son of a bitches ruined the surprise? Maybe not, but they're like, well, there's no way that this thing could exist because it's, nobody knew this, and so why is it like this? So now everybody is scratching their heads and kind of looking at each other by this mysterious turn of events. And so Worf decides to go and speak to Kim Tar about the origin of this now kind of suspect dagger. So Worf heads down to his quarters where he, I guess knew that Kim Tar was going to be. And goes in there and finds Kim Tar is like kind of like creeper in Alexander in bed, like watching him, and he's got a disruptor and he aims it out like he's going to shoot him. And just before he pulls the trigger, Worf comes up and lays the smack down, and they are wrestling. And then finally he lays him out, and he he's got him in a chokehold on the ground, getting ready to kill him. He's got like the killer punch back there, getting ready. And Kim Tar is like, "Father, it's actually me, Alexander, plot contrivance."
Yeah.
And then we drop a commercial.
When we come back from commercial, Worf is like, "Hey, this isn't real. What's the proof? I don't believe you." And then Kim Tar tells him how.
Tell me something only another Klingon would know.
And then you howled in rage and said, "Look at her. Look upon death and always remember. And I always have." So apparently that was enough to, prove to Worf that he is Alexander. So Worf, lets him go pick up,
But who is he talking about? Who's death?
It's not important. No, sorry, it was his mother's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This was the death of Alexander's mom. Well, Worf asks him, like, "Well, what did your mother say to you?" Well, I was only 3. How would I remember?
Right, yeah.
But I do remember what you said. Which, I'm like, wait, hold on. You remember everything your father said, but your mom was like, well, she's the one dying, so, you know what? I don't need to remember that. I just got to remember my dad said, "Look upon death." So Worf, believes this. He reluctantly picks him up, and Alexander explains he had come back from 40 years in the future with the assistance of some dude he met, and Alexander did not want to end his own life, but he wanted to make a.
Hold on, but he says, "But wait! It's great though, because he's like, how did you do this?" And he's like, "Some bloke."
Yeah, he's like some guy in this like Canberra system from Australia.
Man assisted me. Yeah, he's like, some guy helped me, and it's like, that's it. We're not gonna no follow up questions.
Yeah,
thanks.
Guy. Well, I don't know. Well, you know what? Don't worry about it. Point is this shit goes down. And I didn't become this great warrior. I became a diplomat. And I said, hey, I'm going to stop all this fighting between the houses of the Klingons. But no, that didn't happen. Alexander wasn't strong, and Worf gets killed in the Great Klingon Hall. And he gets really, sad, and he wants to, try to change his path. And it didn't really do that. So he realizes this isn't going to work, and he needs to just, go back. And Worf tells him, he's like, well, I wanted to change history. And then Worf is like, you already did, you dumbass. Why did you come back in time to begin with?
Yeah. Just by coming here.
And so Worf is like, Worf pretty much lays it on him. Like, you learn nothing. I have to die with honor. And if I don't die with honor, then our civilization, or our way of life and our culture, is totally meaningless. And
right, because it's like, it's to be true to myself, I have to kind of live by my beliefs, and maybe you need to be true to yourself and live by your beliefs. And
so, he says, you need to live. You need to live back in your time. You need to continue to work for the peace that you've been working on. You need to continue that great work. And I can see it's a worthy cause.
Which presumes that
exactly.
He
does assume that. I assumed that. I was like, I guess he can go forward. Who knows?
Yeah. Or he can, but it's like in real time.
We don't have.
He has to just
we don't have translation gear, but we have forward and backward jump into time. So yeah, it's he explains it's a worthy cause to work for the future of the Klingon race, and so basically they embrace, and Alexander says, "I love you, Father," and Worf says, "And I you, Alexander."
See, even then, my future son came, back to the past to murder himself, and I still can't even say I love you.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
It's that's the Klingon way. The I love you is the softness of the humans. So later, Alexander is in the holodeck to practice with the Batleth and Batleth. That's
Batleth.
it. And Worf is like, "Oh, Kimtar had to leave, so he's gone, and I'm going to say goodbye to you for him, and I will that Kimtar will always respect you. He thinks you're a really cool kid. You know, just try not to take yourself so serious from now on."
Yeah, he's like, "Shine on, you crazy diamond."
He said, "Stay gold," and
stay gold, pony boy.
And so Worf, kind of just realizes he has to let Alexander live his life. And Alexander says, "Well, it's time to practice," and he's like, "I think it'll be time to practice later. Come on." And they leave the holodeck.
There'll always be time to practice, kind of thing. Yeah, but it's so squirrely because there's actually another Trek joke in there where they're like, "Will I see him again?" And Worf kind of stammers for a second. It's like, "Yes, but probably not for a long time." It's like, haha. So side knowledge, but yeah, it's it's about dads and sons and relationships and kind of maybe fathers realizing that that your son may have his own path to to kind of go on and all that. So it's okay, but had it not been you could have discovered all these things without the time
really
travel plot and without calling Quark. and it's so weird because they call Quark and there's some Starfleet officer lady just hanging out in the background, just off to the side.
Well, it's DS9, so it has to have somebody from Federation there.
Yeah, I guess. What is she doing there? What is she
guarding that window port?
She's a featured extra this week.
She's the fan that won the competition. That's her TV time.
Yeah. I accidentally spilled hot soup on her in the commissary, so I promised her some screen time. So, yeah, I don't know what the hell is up with this episode.
Credits roll in. I'm like, all right, Quark's in this one. And then when Quark shows up, I'm like, this makes no sense.
No, it's totally tacked on.
Well, I guess actually I do think it makes sense. There is a little thing. If they had explained that they can't go through normal channels on DS9, that they need to talk to somebody who knows some kind of, bot, like some information that's not going to be on the up and up. Of course, you'll call Quark first, but they never say that. They're just like, "Oh, we need to find the Dark Sisters." "Oh, I know who knows. The people on DS9, they'll know." So,
right.
I think that one little explanation would have done a little bit to make me believe that. It just doesn't make any sense the way they planned it out. Like, okay, we're going to call DS9. Maybe Odo might know, or somebody who is of like an officer of DS9. It's like, nope, you're getting the bartender.
Right. Yeah. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, why? Oh, did the phone just ring through to everybody? And he was like the last guy to pick up.
Ryan, do you want to pick up this phone? Nope.
We're so busy with this Dominion war, we just don't have time.
Log, you want to pick it up? Oh, dude, no thanks. Hey, Quark, you get it.
No. Yep. So anyway, that is Firstborn.
I mean, God,
yeah, it's terrible. Well, I mean, it could have been worse, but the thing about this, but it's it's written by Mark Kalbfeld, who basically this is his only next gen episode. This is the only episode he wrote. It's directed by Jonathan West. This is the only episode he directed. So it's just this is such an outlier on the series, especially this late in, that you get a couple of one-offs. I will of course be proven wrong in future weeks because I know it happens again, but it's just such a dumping ground for orphaned scripts. And I remember reading like a very long time ago that there was like some rewrites on this, that originally it was going to be like some stuff where it was like Romulans coming back from like this like distant future where the Romulans and the Federation are work together and things like that, and like a whole plot where, I mean, this wasn't even like an Alexander episode, but it was just time travel and maybe about like trying to bridge worlds and things like that. I don't know.
Well, do you want to know what our next episode is going to be?
So I would love to learn. I mean,
I've got it right here. Next one is going to be an episode called Journey's End. And so this is,
Oh man, that's the Wesley Crusher episode with
I'll read you a little tag here. As a result of a long disputed treaty with the Cardassians, the Federation has agreed to return several planets to Cardassian control. One such planet, Dorvan 5, is inhabited by the descendants of Native Americans. They do not wish to leave their new home, which they had spent many years searching for.
Listen, we came all the way out to outer space. We're so tired. This is our space reservation, and now you're trying to take the whole damn planet? Come on. Yes, we've moved to an entirely different solar system. Cut the shit.
Oh man, I can't wait to watch this one.
Nah, it's great because it's I don't want to ruin it, but it's like, because it's got Wesley Crusher, but then it's also got like a fan favorite. We got to wrap up the Wesley. Like, this is the wrap up the Wesley.
And I've heard, and I know
arc
like this one holds it's actually a pretty decent episode.
Oh no, yeah, this has got some, well, because it's a Ronald D. Moore episode and stuff, so it's, somebody that actually enjoyed.
I guess that makes all the difference.
The series. So
cool. Well, thanks for joining me on this little journey, Ron.
Yep. See you next time.